Since I live out in the country, I've learned a thing or two about deer. They are just dying to be hood ornaments. Seriously. This is a picture of my dad's car after he hit a deer. Oh, whoops, that's not my dad's car. I just wish it was my dad's car. This is my dad's car. My dad's dented car reminds me of, well, myself. My kidneys have dents. Actually, my kidneys aren't really dented. I was born with a genetic condition called Dent disease, named after the doctor who discovered it. Dent disease is rare, really rare, and it only affects males. There are only about 250 known affected families in the world. That's one in over 700 million people. So why do some people get a disease and others don't? Answer: it's in their genes. No, not these genes, these genes. It's incredible to think that the medical world only recently discovered that genes are in some way responsible for most diseases. Just a few years ago, scientists believed that we were stuck with whatever hand or genes dealt us. But now scientists are discovering ways to heal genes, and therefore the diseases they cause. My information comes from the National Center for Biotechnology Information, the National Human Genome Research Institute, the National Institutes of Health, PubMed, and the medical staff at the Mayo Clinic. First, let's take a look at what scientists have learned about genes and their role in the human body. Next, the role genes play as the root cause for hundreds of diseases. Then, how two revolutionary gene editing tools, lentivirus and CRISPR, have the exciting potential to cure these hundreds of diseases, including mine. Lastly, but certainly not least, the role you play in helping to find these cures. In order to understand what genes are, we need to travel back in time to 1886 and meet an Austrian monk named Gregor Mendel. Mendel belonged to an order of monks that valued science. He was a biologist with a passion for gardening. While breeding pea plants, he discovered the rules of inheritance, which explain why some traits are expressed in offspring and other traits aren't. What determine these traits? Every form of life has its own unique set of instructions called chromosomes. Chromosomes are made of strands of something called DNA. How long are these strands? Really long. If you lined up all the DNA from all the cells in your body, it would reach the sun and back. About 60 times. DNA is made of 4 types of proteins. Scientists refer to these proteins by their first letter: A, T, C, G. It's like an alphabet of 4 letters. Food for thought. To compose his literary works, Shakespeare needed all 26 letters of the alphabet. But God created every living thing with only 4, including Shakespeare himself. What is a gene? If chromosomes are the instruction manual for a cell, then a gene would be a single page of instructions, like what color your hair is. A gene is a short section of DNA in a chromosome. That's worth repeating. A gene is a short section of DNA in a chromosome. Genes spell out how all traits are expressed, from head to toe. Fun fact: did you know that humans are 99.9% alike at the DNA level? We all differ in only 1/10 of 1% of all that DNA reaching back and forth to the sun, which probably explains this phenomenon. Genes contain information about how a cell functions. Most of the time, there are many genes that determine a single human trait. For example, almost 700 genes affect height, but sometimes it just takes one. Now, when something goes wrong with the DNA of that gene, something will go wrong with that person. This is called a point mutation. Point mutations are responsible for many diseases, like cancer, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, and kidney diseases, including Dent disease. To get to the point, my point mutation messes up how my kidneys work. My kidneys can filter certain proteins. As a result, my kidneys will eventually stop working. Is there any hope for curing genetic diseases? Scientists didn't used to think so. Recent discoveries in genetic science are just that, recent. For an example of this cutting-edge technology, let me introduce Dr. Anthony Atala. With his staff at Wake Forest University, he's researching two methods that could heal the CLCN5 gene and cure my disease. One method uses a lentivirus, and the other uses a CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing tool. Let's take a brief look at each of these. What is a lentivirus? It's a virus that can infiltrate every cell of an organism. Once inside, it destroys the organism's DNA by inserting its own rogue genetic code. This alien code would negatively affect that organism and all future offspring. Scientists are trying to use lentiviruses to their advantage. They are trying to turn them from the dark side. Instead of being a villain delivering its own destructive DNA, the lentivirus would become a superhero. Instead of being the Joker, the lentivirus would become Batman in the Batmobile, delivering superpowered DNA to every cell where the genetic code is weak. This would completely heal the disease for the entire organism and all of its offspring. What is CRISPR? While studying DNA strands from different organisms, scientists discovered the same repeating genetic sequences. They found it very curious that these genetic sequences were found in such different organisms. What's more, they were palindromes. What's a palindrome? Oh, a word that's spelled the same forwards and backwards, like Tacocat. In this case, the DNA code was spelled the same forwards and backwards. Remember that four-letter alphabet? A scientist named these sequences CRISPR, clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. Say that 5 times fast. They found that the CRISPRs, or Tacocat DNA segments, were acting as watchcats for the cells. The CRISPRs were surrounding destructive DNA sequences that had previously infected the cells. It was as if the Tacocats were telling the cell, warning, if you see this DNA, beware. Scientists are trying to use lentiviruses and CRISPRs and trying to hook them with an enzyme called Cas9. Together, the CRISPR-Cas9 duo would literally cut out a mutated gene and replace it with a healthy one. And voila, the sentence in the genetic instruction manual is edited. As well as possibly curing many of the aforementioned point mutation diseases, like Dent, lentivirus and CRISPR are also proven effective tools to cure other conditions, like COVID-19. Now, let's talk a bit about Dr. Atala. His focus is urology and regenerative medicine. According to Wake Forest School of Medicine, he was named by US News and World Report as one of the 14 pioneers of medical progress in the 21st century, and selected by Scientific American as one of the most influential people in biotechnology. Hey, let's give Dr. Atala a call right now. Hey, Dr. Atala.
Hello, Jackson. Hello, judges. Congratulations on making it to the Nationals, Jackson. Great work.
Thanks. The judges and I wanted to check in on your work. How's your Dent research going?
Using gene therapy, we're making great progress towards finding a cure.
That's great news. I appreciate your work, Dr. Atala.
You're welcome, and good luck with your speech.
Thanks. Now that we've examined the obvious role of the medical research community in curing diseases, let's talk about the less obvious role. What part do you play? Dr. Atala is one of the foremost genetic researchers in the world. How is it that he decided to work on Dent disease? Now, I'd like you to meet my buddy, Luke. Luke has Dent disease. A generous donation from Luke's grandpa has enabled Dr. Atala and his team to focus on Dent disease. Dr. Ellen Jorgensen, the chief scientific officer at Anika Biosciences, said, quote, lots of scientists did a lot of work to make these advances. And what's interesting to me is that these scientists are being supported by our society. Think about it. We've got an infrastructure that allows a certain percentage of people to dedicate all their time and energy doing research. In that case, we are all the inventors of these advances. We all have a responsibility, unquote. Scientists are supported by our society, by you, by Luke's grandpa, by all of us. Someone had to make Gregor Mendel's glasses so he could see what he was working on. Someone had to build Dr. Atala's lab so he could perform research. As Henry Ford put it, quote, if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself, unquote. In other words, when you and others develop your God-given gifts and use them to bless the lives of others, we can all take credit for the advancement of society, which includes finding cures for rare genetic diseases. And for that, my kidneys thank you.